Welcome back to day 3 of the TCO19 finals. We have a couple new competitions going on today. I am joined here, as always, with my co-host, Will Price. Will, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Another day, another couple competitions. It's going to be another fun one.
It will be a fun one. Speaking of fun competitions, we are going to be covering the QA finals. Now, this is a new track that has just appeared this year. And with us, we have Glenn, a.k.a. Crazyk. If you've seen him on Top Cutters, that's his handle. So, Glenn, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's great to be here.
So, Glenn, when you created this, did you have something in mind as to make it interesting for the live audience?
Things
like that.
Yeah.
Or just explain what it was. What are they doing?
Yeah, sure. So we're in the QA finals competition. So the way that most of these guys got here was doing regression test cases and exploratory testing. So we decided basically to make a competition kind of based off of that, but like a little bit more action. So it's like 3 phases. You do like the manual test cases first, and after you go through that, you go straight into like a bug hunt. And like the coolest part is like there's this third phase where it's like a challenge phase. So like in algo competitions, they have like you can challenge each other's code and things like that. So in this case, you actually challenge each other's bugs. So make sure they're valid, they're invalid, and if you invalidate them, you grab all their points, you basically steal them and add to your own points. So it's kind of like a race to the top really fast, and it's only basically 3 hours of like action basically.
3 hours, and each phase is an hour?
Each phase is 2 hours for the bug hunt and like the test cases. They're all kind of mashed into one. And the third phase is like 1 hour where you just kind of challenge all the bugs.
Yeah, 1 hour to challenge.
1 hour challenge. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of like a race to challenge too at the same time.
It's a what?
Because a race to challenge, because you can only challenge once, and there's only so many bugs.
Right.
Like if you don't challenge fast enough, then you kind of lose out on those points too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Will, have you spent some time in like QA challenges, right? Back in the day?
Yeah. I was when we started off the formal QA offering. I was involved in that, so I learned quite a bit about QA. Glenn has taken it to the next level for sure. So yeah, I think it's great to see the competition. I love the structure so far. Glenn, for anyone who's not super familiar with how QA operates, you used a couple of terms in there. Let's just make sure our audience is following along with us. So we start off with the regression tests, right?
Yep.
So for those who aren't aware, regression testing is when you're testing some existing test cases to make sure that existing functionality isn't broken when you implement new functionality. It's like your base your base functionality that you don't want compromised.
Yep, and you kind of test it over and over again. I mean, in this case, you literally can't test it over and over again, since it's only like a short competition. So to sort of mimic that, you're just basically kind of doing the manual test case part of it. So if we're doing a regression, then there'll be multiple cycles of it. But for a competition, you only got 3 hours. You just kind of do like one and done type of situation.
So you're not expecting anything to come out of the regression round, are you? Or did you guys hide anything in there? A little landmine for them.
Ideally, it was meant for them to get like an education on the application, like upfront through doing like the manual test cases, which would give them an idea of like what good functionality is, and we try some documentation to help them out along the way. And they're actually testing out one of our internal applications right now. So hopefully. Well, if they do find bugs, that's great. If they don't find bugs, that's even better too, I guess.
It would be the most boring competition ever, but it would be like the greatest thing for us.
Yeah, but like, we didn't really like plan any bugs or anything like that. But we did make sure that there are bugs to be found at the same time to actually make it worthwhile.
So what you're saying is we intentionally didn't fix bugs so they could find them.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the leaderboard. The leaderboard is a little different than what you would see in our other competitions. Now, what are we looking at here, Glenn?
So right now we're just looking at basically a plugin directly into Jira that's calculating what type of bug they are, multiplied by the types of amount of points that are actually the bug is worth. So you see the handles on the left, and as you see the key on the right. And for example, code jam. You basically reported 2 functional bugs worth 10 points each, and in the green you reported like 1 UI bug for a total of about like 21, 22 points. So this is just meant to show like in real time as people are reporting bugs, we're basically creating like a provisional score. This will be a little bit different when you go to the second phase, as they'll be challenging these bugs, but this gives them an idea of who's kind of out in front right now and who they need to strategize to lose points basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned before, finding all or making sure that the bugs are valid. Is part of that duplicate bugs? Are they looking at other people's submissions as they submit their own bugs, just to make sure that
They
they're not-
are, if they are multitasking,
Yeah.
which is probably what they should be doing. They should be looking at what everybody else is reporting at the same time in order to prepare for the challenge phase at the same time. So they're switching between screens, but the idea would be you pay attention to what everybody else is doing, in order to, one, you make sure you're not duplicating, and two, to see like what they're reporting, and if you notice right away that's something that you might want to challenge, that could be the strategy if they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
They don't have to do that, but if I were them,
Yeah.
I might try to do something like that. So like everything that everybody reports, it's very transparent. So in this case, like I could see everybody's bug, they could see everybody else's bug, so which allows like a different level of like awareness to like where you're reporting. So if you report like trash, then it's going to get slammed. So you got to make sure you don't report like bad bugs, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's really interesting looking at the scoreboard right now, seeing where VT is with over double the amount of reports as everyone else. You got to kind of
Now
wonder.
these are points and not reports, right?
These are actual like points, not actually
sorry.
total.
So thank you for clarifying.
Oh yeah, so yes, he has not reported any bugs, but
Thank goodness.
eight bugs. yeah. So it's basically calculating the points too, because if you reported 10 UX bugs, that's very different from reporting 10 functional bugs. To understand who's actually in the lead or not.
Okay, makes sense, and that's where the color coding breakdown comes.
Exactly.
So how are you guys calculating points per issue right now?
Oh yeah, sure. So for functional issues, 10 points each. For security issues, if they find them, 5 points each. Accessibility, 2 points, and UI and UX, 1 point each.
That might explain why there's more orange on the field, as they are the most points, right?
Yes, they are the most points. There are functional bugs to be had. So it's kind of like in the hierarchy of things, you do want to go after the highest point value, but if you don't find it, then you kind of go on to the next thing and kind of the next thing as well.
Right.
But as you get more attuned to the application, ideally you actually find more. Maybe you find like more functional bugs because you understand the functionality a little bit. But I don't know, the strategy's kind of up to them. Whatever they find, whatever's actually available. Yeah. I mean, like it's kind of like a. It's got like a Wild West like shootout. Like you just find whatever you see, and
Right.
if you don't, you just move on to like the next thing. So
That's really cool. And so when the challenge phase is completed, the scoreboard will show, who's on top, but that's not necessarily what the final score may be.
correct. Yeah. So there'll be so the challenge phase is going to change a lot of that, and our final review after the competition is over is going to change that a little bit too. So someone could do a misclassification. Someone could have found something that's really like as designed, and it was pretty obvious that it should be like as designed. Like it was just part of the original functionality of the application itself. So a lot of those calls the staff is going to make at the end of that to be sure that it's like a level playing field after everything's kind of been reviewed.
So how does that work? Let's say a bug gets reported.
Yep.
It's something that is as designed. It's identified by staff after the fact.
Yep.
Is there a penalty for reporting that, or do they just lose the points?
There will be, so if in the challenge phase, if someone else recognizes that, then someone is going to lose points and someone's going to gain points. After the fact, we'll just not necessarily take it away. Yeah, we'll basically not take. Yeah, we'll take away the points from the visual score. That's basically what we're doing.
All right, makes sense.
Yep.
So, Glenn, you're familiar with a lot of these names, being so involved in the QA competitions that we run on Topcoder. We have some pretty well-known folks on here in the QA community. So here are our finalists right now. Are there any names on here that are jumping out to you as someone that you've seen competing a whole lot?
Yeah, sure.
Might be well-positioned today?
Pretty much all these guys. So Kieran, Sakin, CodeJam. These are the guys that are prominently competing in our Microsoft Teams QA testing. So these guys have been basically competing every single week for like the last year, testing a Teams application with regression testing and exploratory testing. We got from Mulyug, Vidati, Misha, actually, and even, for those three guys, they're mainly like they got here by doing like test case automation basically. So like a little bit different, but they also have been running, just as a good software developer, they understand testing like really well as well. So doing this bug hunt is kind of an equalizer kind of for all these guys because it's something that is core to what we do at Topcoder anyway. So it's something that they're all familiar with, and everybody is kind of seeing this application for the first time. So it kind of gives like everybody like a fair playing ground before. So they already done these things before, and now we're kind of leveling it off and bringing back basically what they've done before in their normal challenges throughout the year.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
So another thing worth noting for our viewers right now in the QA finalists, as we take a look, you see a lot of first-time finalists. That's because this is the first time we've ever had a QA final at the Top Coder Open. So we're seeing kind of a new subset of members at the opportunity to make their way to the U.S. for competition.
Yeah. Well, we also do have a few veteran TCO finalists here. One being Muli G. We saw him earlier in the first to finish competition. Unfortunately, I think that was more focused on the full stack development, and he's more of a front end developer. But evidently, he's also participating in the QA track. And when we looked at the leaderboard, it looked like he was, submitting a bunch of tickets. Probably in second place right now, I think.
Yep.
A very interesting story. Muli G trying to find his new place at TCO with the UI prototype track not being part of the competition this year. I guess he wanted to diversify his portfolio a little bit, and, spread across different competitions. What I thought was really interesting about the scoreboard was it was primarily functional issues coming in from Muli G, not necessarily UX issues, which is what I thought I might see coming from a UX or a front end developer. Focusing more on UX, but definitely digging into the functionality, and that might be one layer deeper than the UX. That kind of experience, looking for navigational issues, things like that he's used to programming.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was told earlier that CodeJam is he's the only red rated member here in the testing track. So that's really impressive to be a red rated member. I believe he was a competitor a while ago, and now he's returned to Top Coder to compete once again. So,
actually, like a fun story. So, CodeJam is actually the husband of SD Gun, which is one of the great QA co-pilots and great QA co-pairs we have. So I just found that out like yesterday.
I just found that out right now, and I was just speaking with SD Gun a few minutes ago.
No, yeah, crazy. So, in order to avoid like a conflict of interest, they decided not to always like compete like at the same time, basically. You know what I mean? So SD Gun co-pilot a lot of stuff. She can't work anymore because of some like visa obligations and things like that.
Okay.
So CodeJam steps in, starts competing, and we're good. So if SD Gun co-pilots again, then unfortunately my lose goes in.
The first family of Top Coder QA right there.
Yeah, exactly. And they have 2 kids, so maybe about another 10 years, 15 years from now. We'll just have like QA competitors just going after it all the time.
Stage up.
Yeah.
The one year they decide to throw those ethics questions aside, throws on the conflict of interest, and they'll just dominate the competition.
Yeah, but then they did it all on their own. People keep it honest in the community, obviously, so it's great to kind of see that integrity, throughout. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we got one of our matchup slides now, taking over 2 of the more favored competitors coming into this competition, CodeJam and Sakan. So both of them very high win percentages in their areas. So Glenn, do you know these are kind of made up of a number of results. Do you think these are more on the bug hunt side of things or automation side for these particular folks?
So for CodeJam, it's actually he gets first place in a ton of our bug hunts for like the Microsoft Challenge stuff and anything that we put on basically like Jira and some of the bug hunts that we've been doing throughout the year. But he's also like a full-time software engineer. So he's actually doing some of this part-time. So as far as like his skill set, it goes like both sides. Sakin, he's definitely really good at our bug hunts too. So he gets at least first or third place on all the bug hunts we do for Microsoft. And I think this win percentage is largely from doing like bug hunts basically.
All right. So two experienced bug hunters there. When we mentioned earlier that some folks are coming in with an automation background, I was wondering if they might be at a bit of a disadvantage, not being used to manually going through and hunting them down, having the software do it for them.
Yeah, I see it like in a little bit different way. So if you're a good software engineer, regardless of whether you're doing it automated or doing it manually, like you would have an eye to see, where an application could be failing, where like the bugs are. So I think they naturally are able to kind of do that anyway. And if it was like a formally, like a QE engineer, then of course they'll be able to kind of like find these things manually as well. But I think the skill set kind of goes across both ways. Where I don't think they're really at much of an advantage. If anything, they might be, and not at a disadvantage. I think they're really at a strong advantage actually too at the same time. So they're just bringing a different skill set with a different perspective, still getting all those bugs than anybody else would,
I think it's time maybe to jump in and take a look at some of our competitors' screens.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Let's see how they're operating right now. So first, jumping in on CodeJam to see what he is hunting down. So
what are we looking at here?
So this is
the application they're testing.
Yes, the application they're testing, which is Connect, which is our internal client-facing application where clients just if they have a project they want to submit to Top Coder, they put it through Connect, and it looks like he's trying to find a project on Connect. So we basically assign each of these guys a project as a co-pilot and as a client.
Okay.
So they're basically looking at two different roles while they're doing like this testing. He is going back and forth. It looks like he's trying to. Okay, so this is like another technique too. So you can see like what other bugs other people reported. Make sure that they're not duplicating the bug at all. Okay. So what he's trying to do is he probably found the bug. And now he's making sure that no one else reported this bug, and then after that, he's probably going to report the bug too.
So this
manage
is the,
all the projects from the dashboard and control.
The spec that you were describing earlier, right?
Yep, this is spec. We'll put out like a few hours ago at this point, and it's just kind of gave them the basics of what the application is, what's going on.
How detailed do they need to get when they submit their bug?
Pretty detailed. So we have a bunch of drop-down fields to kind of make it easier for them to report faster some of the basic information, like what browser they're using, what OS they have, and things like that. When it comes to, it's important for other people to understand what type of bug they're reporting. So just basic, even just like basic grammar and making use of full sentences, so people actually understand like what you're actually doing. So that's important as well. So it is a manual thing, but as far as these competitors go, almost all of them have a good grasp of like written English, and that's kind of very important for other people to understand what you're actually reporting. So if they lose kind of that context when someone else is looking at the bug, then it's confusing, right? So like a bug is only as good as like how someone could actually understand it and like reproduce it.
Interesting. All right, here we go. We haven't spoken about Julia yet. Julia's a first timer here at TCO. Speaking of paramours, actually, I just heard that this is the girlfriend of Nightwolf. So Nightwolf competing in our first to finish earlier.
And development he'll be competing in later on as well.
Yeah.
So they're taking over all the tracks here on this side of the.
So Julia just actually came in. She might have not came in because she was having some like visa issues, but she barely came in like last night. So she's a champ. I mean, so she basically probably got like no sleep. Came down here and is now gonna be in an intense competition for like the next like 3 hours.
Right.
So like props to her, definitely.
So what is she doing here? I see.
You jumped over
we
to
changed to
Misha.
Misha. Okay. So this is Misha Kucica from Romania.
All right. It looks like he's back in Connect again, looking at a project. Looks like. So I think since you have like two different user accounts, he basically used one to create a project, and then he switched to the Copilot account and used that project to test it as a Copilot. So that's kind of what we're looking for, is that you're actually interacting the two roles together and trying to find like bugs in that fashion as well. So that's like one thing that they should be able to grasp once they actually realize that they have two roles, that the interaction between those two roles is critical in like kind of testing the application as well. We didn't make that like explicit in the spec, but then they should get to that point where they're kind of figuring it out as they're looking at it. Yeah.
Looking at his wins, he only has 2, and that's pretty interesting.
I guess that is pretty interesting, but he's actually also one of our co-pilots as well. So we kind of switched to the co-pilot and isn't competing as much, but he actually was in the finals like a couple of years back too, I believe. Right. He's still good, I think. Yeah.
Here we go with Mooley.
Yeah, 3-time TCO champion Mooley G.
Yeah. 39 bugs reported total now. Okay. Kind of getting up there.
Bugs, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like you have your work cut out for you, Glenn.
No. Oh no, for Ariel, not me. Sorry.
And we are closing up a bit soon. Let's look at VT right before we head on out, who is our current leader. Looks like he is. Oh. Okay. Okay, so it looks like he's trying to put it.
He found something.
Oh, I found.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
Looks like he was trying to use special characters to break one of the filter fields there.
Yeah, basically. That's smart.
And that's why they do what they do, huh?
Yep.
Let's see what he does here. No.
All right. So we are running low on time. I think as VT continues to push those special characters through, we'll take one last look at the scoreboard as we close out our coverage on the QA finals. And
now it looks like we're doing a little refresh.
Yeah.
See what it looks like.
That leaderboard there.
All right.
Boom. Ooh, got a little bit more
so
going
another
on. Yeah.
slight jump ahead.
So like what
for
you said
VT.
before, it looks like VT has tested all the functional ones, and now he's kind of moving on to other
Yep, exactly.
sections of the.
Exactly, and they kind of exhausted their options at one point, and then they're just kind of moving on to the next thing. But yeah, actually, this is kind of good to see. This is good to see.
It's interesting for future competitors as well. They may be watching the live broadcast and strategizing for next year on the best way to kind of go about this, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the first year we're doing it.
Right.
I think we're going to learn like a lot of things from this, and kind of expand it a little bit more. Because I mean, QA is just not like manual testing or regression testing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like there's like a whole world of automation and different things like that. So kind of building our competitors to kind of do that full stack of like QA type stuff is kind of what we're kind of maybe striving towards in the future. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Excellent. Well, we're going to be wrapping up our coverage on the QA finals for now, and we will be back shortly with design finals.
Design finals.
Yes.
Design finals
All right.
one.
Cool.
Before
All right.
the design championship.
See ya.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.